back to the SML podcast, playing the field with Field Journal 007. Today is Thursday, so we are going to be co-hosted by Primetime 000. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? I don't know. Is this official now? We're going to be doing this weekly Prime and Field back again on the podcast, or
yeah, I think a lot of people
there?
like the co-host type thing, like we used to do back in the day with the podcast. So why not Thursdays here on SML's YouTube? But let's go ahead. We'll talk about SML business, then we'll talk about some other topics. Right now, let's just briefly talk about your sham of a season. What's going on with the Colts?
Yeah, briefly, having a bad season, 1-5, I think. Second worst record in the league. The only team that's worse than us right now, 0-6 Jets. But hey, you know what? We've made 13 of 18 Super Bowls. This was our first season 1 of Madden 19 was the first time we didn't make the Super Bowl since season 5 of Madden 17. So that means Madden 18 we did not miss the Super Bowl. We did lose 3 though.
Have you ever missed the playoffs or anything like that before?
No, never missed the playoffs. Obviously we've lost 2 playoff games, but never missed.
So at this point, with where your record's at, with how your team is playing, can you make the playoffs?
I think we can. It's going to be tough. We got to win out. And the good thing is, for that 6th seed is what we're fighting for. We do play a lot of the teams in contention for that 6th seed. So if we win those games, then we got a decent chance.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other teams around the league. Who's the biggest surprise team to you outside of yourself, whether it be success or struggling? I guess give me both. Give me one team that you feel that surprised you because how well they're doing this season, and give me one team that surprised you by how poorly they played this season.
Well, I think, the obvious answer is the Seahawks, but I'm going to go a different route here. The Jaguars are a Super Bowl champion, but we kind of expected it. Governor's been a good player for the league, and then you give him a team like a Jags, and he's probably going to win some games. But I'm going to say the Browns. The Browns, they're 5-1 again this year. I think they're the number 1 seed in the AFC last season.
Right.
And I'm done with a roster that's subpar. A team that's not doing so well. I'm probably going to have to go and say probably the Chargers, actually. I mean, outside of myself, I always thought Future Empire has been a great player, top of the league type of guy, and he's just not getting it done in San Diego. And that might be, once again, a roster thing. The Chargers just don't have a very strong roster, so he might be struggling with that.
Right, and I guess we just take a look real quick just to see what's going on, talk about some of those numbers. It's on the screen now. But the Chargers are 10th in points per game on offense at 21. Yardage-wise, they're kind of bottom of the barrel, 25th with 241 total, 29th passing, 156. 9th on the run, though, with 84. So, obviously struggling throwing the ball. Is that kind of indicative of the type of player he is, or you think that's just with the team being the Chargers?
Yeah, I think it's more of just the team he's got. It's tough to see a guy like that drop off. So I'm just going to go with the obvious and say maybe his roster isn't that great, and we could see him do better a little bit later on in this Madden cycle. Yeah,
he's got some decent players out there. He's got Keenan Allen, 93 overall. Joey Bosa on defense, 93 overall. Casey Hayward, 92. Melvin Gordon, 92. Wow. Melvin Ingram, 92. So, I mean, he's got some pieces there. Defensively, he's doing decent. 15 points, only allowing 15 points a game. That's 9th best in the league, and only allowing 172 yards against the pass, and 2nd against the run with 41. But somehow total yards, he's 25th at 214. So I don't really understand how that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So I guess we'll change gears a little bit here. I guess let's go ahead and one more SML topic. Bold prediction. What's your bold prediction for the SML right now?
I'm going to say, I'm on your show, but I'm going to say the Rams make the Super Bowl this year. And the even bolder prediction, Colts Rams Super Bowl.
Colts Rams Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Wow. Yep. Wow, that's definitely bold,
that's bold
considering the start you've had this year. But all right, we're gonna change gears. We're gonna talk about a couple other real life topics now. We'll talk about NBA because since LeBron left the first time, you've been a Lakers fan. Basically, that's when you were done with the Cavs. What do you think about LeBron going to the Lakers and so far what's been going on there? Or have you been following that at all?
Yeah, I've been following it. It's obviously a decision he made. beyond basketball, obviously personal. You know, he felt he could probably take his brand to a higher level. But beyond that, if he does win a championship in LA, it won't be right away. That's built a little more, and I think he understood that coming in, that this team's not going to be an instant title contender like he's used to.
Right.
And that's all right. You know, you got some young, like Brandon Ingram's very solid player. You got some guys in place, and then you're one good free agency class away from being that title contender. The Warriors aren't getting any younger. You know, you see KD, you don't know how that's going to shake out.
Right.
You know, so you never know.
Away. You just never know.
And there's a lot. And, you know, if he went back to Cleveland, you know, he could have gone to any team this year, and they probably couldn't have pieced together a roster to compete with the Warriors, you know. So
right.
I like the move on a personal level. And then basketball, he's obviously committed. He signed like a 4 or 5 year contract. So he's here for the long term. See how it shakes out.
So someone that has been spurred by LeBron as a fan before, when he comes to your team now, are there any ill will feelings or any more bad blood, or is that now water on the bridge at this point?
Well, I didn't like LeBron for the first few years, especially in Miami. When he went back to Cleveland, it was kind of like, you know, it was kind of cool. You know, at least he went back there, won a championship there. You know, it's good to see for that fan base. And then his last season in Cleveland, I was actually kind of pulling for him to win, especially in the finals, because he was literally carrying the team in the you know, putting up stupid numbers. And
right.
You know, I think it was J.R. Smith just had a complete buffoon moment there. So stuff like that, you know, I watched that live, you know, and you can't help but to pull for the guys. Just so then when he went to LA, it was kind of cool. Time heals everything. So
yeah, that's true. All right, so let's talk about the NFL. What's going on? Talk about your favorite team, the Colts, 4-5. And I was at the game this Sunday. The Colts jet out. I believe it was 29 to, I don't remember what the halftime score was. I think it was like a 16-point lead or something of that nature. And the Jags wind up pulling it within 3 towards the end of the game. Colts, I'm pretty sure the Colts put up 29 in the first half, didn't score squat in the second half.
Right.
So kind of tell me what you think about that game in particular, and then the Colts season at 4-5 right now. What are your predictions for where they're going to go?
You know, I thought the game was, you know, it's a win. You're a little disappointed with how it ended, but that's football. Not very often do teams get blown out. And the Colts roster as a whole is still a very young roster, and a roster that doesn't know how to win and finish games. But you can't help but to be satisfied seeing how last season they got shut out in Indianapolis, and Brissett got sacked like 12 times against that same team. So back at a few pieces on the offensive line, and all of a sudden you can run the ball. And Luck hasn't been sacked in 4 or 5 games, which I guess is kind of me transitioning to the season. You know, you're seeing Luck get better throughout the year, knocking off some of that rust, and he's kind of establishing himself quietly as an elite quarterback. He was in that very good tier, but then he never quite got a lead. I think towards the end of this season now, assuming he stays healthy and he continues on his upward tick, you know, you're going to see a good end of the year, and then heading into 2019, I think the Colts can be back to playoff contention for sure.
Well, I think a lot of that, him not getting the elite tier, is, for one, he didn't really beat anybody in the playoffs, so he hasn't had a major playoff win. And then also, prior to Frank Reich, he's not really allowed he wasn't allowed to make any, you know, calls at the line, no audibles, anything like that. And so now he's able to take kind of command of the offense, become more of a premier quarterback in the league. So it'll be interesting to see, because his numbers, like you said, he's having a really good comeback year, probably be comeback player of the year. I don't think he's going to get MVP, but just because he's on, you know, a team that's 4-5 right now. But it's definitely a comeback player of the year, and it'd be interesting if they can get in the playoffs. I think they could make some noise. I don't really think at this point, though, that the roster could still contend with New England. I don't think they're good enough to beat the Patriots. I don't think they're good enough to, you know, obviously beat any of the elite teams in the NFL. But definitely a good thing to see him get back on the right track, you know. So
yeah, you get a little nervous, especially in that Philly game they had this year. He looked just bad. So, you know, like you said, good to see him back. Good to see him healthy. He adds excitement. You know, you can watch the games, and you know you have that effective. You know, you got number 12 on the field. You have a chance. Whereas before, when you have Brissett or when Peyton was hurt, you had Curtis Painter. It's like, oh god, you know, you could be up by 20 points and you're just waiting for it to go south.
Jesus
so
Christ, here we go again. But let's talk about the rest of the NFL. Who's the biggest surprise team so far? Give me one positive, one negative.
I'm I'm going to say the Chiefs, obviously.
Patty
Now the
Mahomes.
Chiefs, yeah, really Patrick Mahomes more so than the Chiefs. I expected him to be a bust, but he's coming out playing well.
You
The
think it's a
Chiefs
one-year wonder?
wouldn't surprise me.
Like
I don't
Dak
know.
Prescott, you know?
Yeah, you put these
Dak didn't
guys
have
in.
quite that amount of numbers, but similar type skill set. Dak doesn't quite have the arm strength or accuracy that Mahomes has displayed this year, but you just never know with these guys. Foles, he was a guy that had a tremendous season one year, and I mean he kind of had some magic in the playoffs last year, but not a guy over his career that hasn't had the Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers type consistency. But anyway, go
Right.
ahead.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, like you said, is first of all, it's being consistent, and then secondly, you put Mahomes on the Chiefs, where the roster stack, the systems obviously towards him, especially his first year, they kind of make things easy on him.
Right.
A lot of those young guys, and then when it's time to add more to his plate because defense start keying in on that stuff, then you might see some struggles. But you know what? He is putting up some crazy numbers, so it's kind of hard to refute that. So a bad team. Man, I don't know. I don't know who's really doing too bad this year that I was surprised by, honestly. The Cowboys, I mean, Cowboys are a team you expect to do a little bit better, but I think they had some injuries on the line, stuff like that. So, but I'd probably say Cowboys.
I guess for me, obviously the Rams. I don't think anyone really expected them to actually be as good as they've been. I think they're 9-1 right now, or something to that effect. And then, Jared Goff, in Madden terms, he's really inconsistent, like where he's at for me anyway. But then in real life, he's put up good numbers last year, especially the second half of the season, and then this year he's put up some really good numbers. And Todd Gurley is, he's Todd Gurley, and they've had a good defense since. Even when Peyton Manning was still on the Colts, the Rams were known for a decent defense when James Laurinaitis and those boys were out there.
Right.
I guess to me, my one surprise team that's done so poorly at 1-8 would be the Raiders, man. I didn't expect John Gruden to come in there and absolutely stink up a storm. I mean, I know now it's rebuild mode and John wants to put this team in his vision, but I could see him realistically getting canned before he could even really live out his vision there in Oakland. Really build that team in his image. And 1-8 and getting rid of Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and getting rid of some of the big pieces there. I mean, yeah, they still got Carr, but who else do they have on that team at that point? So to me, that was kind of the surprise, was the Raiders, because they've kind of been it seemed like the team to take over the AFC West the last couple of years. They were poised to do that. And ever since Gruden came in, it seems like they've kind of taken, a major step back, in my opinion.
Right. I didn't even think about that. I'd say, they did sign him to a 10-year contract, but obviously, with coaches and GMs, that doesn't mean much.
No.
And then you always hear on the media, they talk about how certain coaches and GMs want their guy, and you just kind of shake your head at it, because if somebody's good enough, usually they won't trade him off. But John Gruden seems to be the type of guy with really just an ego. So he's trading off the best defensive player in the league, which is idiotic, because you're not, because now they're going to take that first round pick, roll the dice on it, and hopefully they find a solid defensive guy to replace Mack. You know what I mean? So,
I think the Raiders have maybe 8 sacks as a team right now, and I'd like to know what Mack's number. Let's just look that up real quick. What do you think his sack numbers are right now with the Bears?
Probably 7 sacks, few forced fumbles, and 2 picks or something stupid. I know he's just balling out right now.
Yeah, he's got 7 sacks. And I think the Raiders' defense, let's look that up just to compare. I wish I would have had this up and ready, but this is kind of off the cuff here. Defense sacks 2018.
Right. So, that the Colts dodged a bullet, because I know there was rumors of Jim Irsay meeting with John Gruden and stuff. So we dodged a bullet with that one. I feel bad for Raiders fans because that doesn't look like it's going to pan out very well.
Yeah, they've got 8 sacks right now.
Oh,
the Raiders as a team. So obviously, it's not very good when you start looking at those numbers, and just take a look at their numbers as a whole. Total first downs, they're doing decent. You start looking at comparing their offense, they're not doing well. I guess third down, they're still balls, but I don't know. Defensively, I guess I was just surprised that that Khalil Mack's almost equaled that sack number. I heard that the other day, and it's just crazy. You get rid of a guy that's a high-profile player. And, just because he wanted a lot of money, and John, for whatever reason, decided that it was in his team's best interest to get rid of the best defensive player and one of the premier defensive players in the league. You
Right.
know,
And on top of that, to a Chicago team who's playing pretty solid right
yeah,
now. So those draft picks aren't going to be a top 5 pick. Those are going
no,
to be at least middle to low 20s. You know what I mean?
right. So what do you think
So
about? And not only that, though, I guess one last point about that. So Khalil Mack goes to the Bears, who have been a team that have been a toilet bowl type team the last 5 years or so, and now they're all of a sudden a contender. You know, they look like they're gonna not necessarily a Super Bowl contender, but you know, a team that's poised to make a push in the playoffs, which is something rare for Chicago. They haven't seen that kind of success. It's just interesting. The Raiders get rid of Mack, and now they suck, and now the Bears are relevant. I don't really remember what their record is right now, but
right. I know they have a few losses, but I think they're
6-3.
close. Yeah, top of the division, I believe, just about.
I think they are the top division because the Lions are 3-6, the Packers are 4-1. So that would leave who? The Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings are playing solid.
5-3-1. So
there
Bears
you go.
and Vikings going to go head and head this year. I guess 2 other topics to talk about. Le'Veon Bell. The Le'Veon Bell saga has been going on. Really, it kind of started last year, and now it's finally kind of come to, for now, the conclusion that he's not going to play this year. Question now being, will he ever be a Steeler? It looks to be not, based on the article I was reading about the comments from Big Ben, that he's not there, and that he basically said he wished him luck and all that stuff. Do you think that Bell will be back with the Steelers? And if not, where do you think he's going to go? And also, do you think he made the right move sitting out the season in hopes to protect his body and get that big contract somewhere else?
Well, you always hear. First of all, there's no way how he's going back to Pittsburgh. I don't think you can correct that relationship now. But you always see guys who sit out training camp, maybe first week of preseason or something, and then somebody gives in, you know. And
Right.
it's obvious to me that Bell does not care to play for a contending team. He's going to go straight for the money. Because Pittsburgh, you know, they always have a solid team. They're always in the playoffs. I think they made the AFC divisional round last year. So he's going to go with whoever's going to open up the biggest checkbook. You know what I mean? So
Hopefully, Colts.
and there's actually, if you go, there's a thing online. If you Google it, even Pat McAfee's tweeted it out. There's only he's only following a few teams on Instagram, and then he's always commenting on Colt stuff and liking Colt stuff, like Andrew Luck stuff in particular.
Oh yeah,
you know, So he's been doing this for about 2 years now, so that's something to keep an eye on. But I wouldn't mind it. You know, 2-3 year contract. You know, we got the money. We don't have anybody besides Luck. We don't have any players.
No, there's really even T.Y. Hilton is not a star player. T.Y. and is the guy that they talk up as always being the Colts #1. But really, he's a #2 receiver. He's not a big guy. He only really creates a separation due to his speed, you know, and you see him get shut down a lot of times by the big physical corners, much like Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne back in the day. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's going to go on with Le'Veon. But it's almost kind of disappointing. I bet you the Steelers fans are all pretty upset about it. I mean, luckily for them, Connor's putting up numbers, so either they're getting lucky hitting on you know, their last couple running backs, or you know, the system, or a combination of both. But I guess the last topic I'm going to talk about before we close today is the Ravens, with Joe Flacco being injured, and what is it, Lamar Jackson? I know his last name is Jackson. I don't remember his first name, but Jackson, who, you know, a Madden favorite. He's kind of got the Michael Vick type of, not quite as good as Michael Vick, especially now with how Madden plays. You're not able to juke guys out of their shoes like that anyway. But in the NFL, I think he's a guy that's set up to be successful with his skill set, the mobility. He even at Louisville, he had decent accuracy. And now he's saying that he's more on point, which hits practice, so you can't really take a whole lot from that. But, you know, he's a guy that I always thought he was. I followed him in college, talked about his stats, you know, and to me, he was kind of an electrifying player back then at Louisville. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen there. Do you think that now is going to be Jackson time in Baltimore, or do you think that they should kind of wait, maybe let him play and then go back to Flacco? Or do you think that once he takes over, it's Jackson time and that's it?
Right. So that's one of those guys. We talked about Mahomes. Mahomes is a little more of a passer. Like you said, Jackson's more electric.
Right.
So that's probably a guy I could see with some instant success. Not sure how long he'll last. Maybe the RG3 effect, but all it takes is that instant success for 8 games, and then Joe Flacco's out of Baltimore. So I could see that happening for sure. Whether that's the right move or not, I don't know. I mean, Flacco's not playing well anyways.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he hasn't for a while. He's never been elite.
No,
He did
he
win a
never
Super
should
Bowl,
got that
but
contract he got.
oh, now I'm just gonna say Flacco's done. I think it's Jackson time, especially if he enjoys some early success. You know, catches runs in some crazy touchdowns, gets the fans' attention again, start selling some tickets.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's probably his time to go with Jackson and see what happens. We invested the first round pick in him. And obviously, I think a good part of the fan base has been calling for Jackson, that they wanted to see him in action. Because I think, Flacco over the last couple of years has been pretty piss poor. So
Right. Yeah.
we'll see what
Flacco's
happens.
era has run its course, right? So
Right. Maybe it is time to change the guard. But
another quarterback, real quick. Yeah, just another quarterback where their era is over after this year's Eli Manning in New York.
Yeah,
he's definitely run his course.
And I was just reading about that before the game, and how they only guaranteed Eli's start this week, and then they go from there. Which statistically, he had 3 touchdowns, but he was like 50% completion percentage,
Right.
and only like it was under 200 yards passing. So it wasn't even a great game. Although, if you looked at it like 3 weeks ago, he was in the top 5 for passing yardage in the NFL.
Really?
Yeah, that was like I saw on Instagram, someone posted a picture, or it was like an NFL page shared it.
Part of the thing is they're always getting beat and they're losing in garbage time.
I mean, you got to start throwing it, But I don't get why they're struggling that much. Saquon Barkley has not been a bust. He's a guy that's been, having good success, and you would think that they would just be riding his coattails like Zeke
Right.
and Dallas, and running a lot of play action for Manning, and running some. At this point, like they even talked about in the article, his physical traits have got to be diminishing. So you got to move on like Peyton did, like after the neck surgery, working the screens, working the short to intermediate stuff. Why are you still having Eli doing 7-step drops and looking for post patterns and 30 and 40-yard bombs down the field when, for one, he can't really move around the pocket to protect himself, and 2, he doesn't have the arm strength that he once did, and
Right.
the Giants' offensive line is trash. The Colts and Giants just switched places and having the worst offensive line, but go ahead.
I mean, the formula's proven. You've seen it in Denver with Peyton. I mean, Brady's doing it now. Drew Brees is doing it now. There'll be a home for Eli. You thought it might be the Jaguars, but Jacksonville seems like they're kind of slipping. But there'll be a team at the end of this year that, maybe seems like they're a quarterback away
for a season or 2, and they'll go ahead and pay him. And, I think the whole Eli Manning saga is a bit disappointing. I was pretty pissed off for him last season when he got benched.
Yeah.
That was the lowest thing I've ever seen a coach do. And
Yeah,
then the
ridiculous.
fact that they threw him back in the mix the next week, like that, I would have been done. I would have demanded a trade at that point. You've took over one of the hardest records to get in the
Right.
NFL, and I don't even think he had the record, but he had the longest streak going, and he was over 200 games. So, that, and now to go to this season where everything's kind of, the sky's falling in New York, and Eli's kind of seeing, which he's 37 now, which I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah, he's old now.
But, he's seen his career go from upset the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl and being a, Pro Bowl level quarterback to now Father Time hit him quicker than it did Brady, and his team's not as good, so he's not able to be lifted up by his teammates, which is kind of disappointing. And like I said, it's just surprising when you have Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr.
And yeah, that's the thing. The thing about Eli is you never hear anybody say they don't like Eli Manning. And the reason being is because he was never quite as good as Peyton or Brady, but he was always just solid, you know what I mean? And then like he always beat the bad guy too, which makes him more likable. But now, nobody actually likes seeing. I've never heard one person say, "Oh man, I'm happy Eli's finally doing bad," or it looks like his career's over. So it's actually kind of sad to see,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he almost probably should have went out. He probably should have retired after last year, or demanded a trade to go to a different team, because this almost kind of hurts your legacy a little bit. Like the last couple of years, and you're, not doing well, and that's kind of what the public remembers is what you've done for me lately, not what you did back in 2007. So, I don't know. I guess that's where we're at. But I feel like we're probably a little long-winded, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this baby off. So, you got any closing statements, or what do you think?
All right, man. Stay tuned for the Colts. We got 10 wins to go. Let's see if we can get them.
All right, we'll see what Prime's able to do. Like I said, right now I believe he's where are you? 1-4, 1-5?
1-5.
So he's 1-5. Stay tuned to the SML to see if Colts, the reigning champion, or not reigning champion, but the guy with the most championships in league history, if he's able to turn around and make the playoffs. It's the saga that continues. You can follow us on Twitter at Sim Madden League. If you're in our league, make sure that, and I keep saying this, people don't seem to understand, you need to hit the @ sign and tag the Sim Madden League. That way your tweets come up in the notifications on my page. That way I can retweet it. If you don't do that, then I have to go through and find your individual page and retweet it. So please, at Sim Madden League. That's all you got to do. Then I'll retweet all your crap. But anyway, if you're someone that has tuned in for the first time and you've enjoyed this show, for some reason watched it this long, be sure to check us out on daddyleagues.com/SML. Apply. We've got a website. There'll be a link in the description below, simmaddenleague.com. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed it. Comment below what you want to see. If you want to hop on, I do shows on Tuesday and Thursday, but this is the co-host day, myself and Prime. Tuesday is your opportunity to hop on the On the Horn segment. So get with me. Let's get it done. Be sure to like, subscribe, take care, and have a great day.